and we're excited to have the Executive Director, Ken Yancey, today. So Ken, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, Austin, what a pleasure.
Coming into the EWA with no experience in the background of wildlife, what has been some of like the biggest surprises to you?
I had no idea that there was such an industry beyond just the hunting aspect.
What would you say the overall health of the EWA is today?
When we talked about the state of EWA, I used the word evolving.
I mean, is that sustainable? Do you think you'll have another 200 people show up?
I am counting on growth. I don't know if it's going to be the kind of growth that we experienced, almost doubling in the AMM in February.
Do you feel like enough people are doing it, or could they have more crowd participant of filling those forms out?
By a wide margin, we need more people to communicate with us. And, Austin, we need to also figure out how we better communicate with those that didn't come.
One of the things we talked about was an email y'all sent out about the economic impact survey. But can you kind of talk about the last time that was taken and why it's important?
The only data we have is 2007.
Right.
And it's just almost irrelevant.
As you know, and as you've probably heard, if you were listening to all of our podcasts, the more influence we have on these platforms, the more guests we can have. So I'm asking you, please comment below. Literally pause and go comment. You could comment whatever you want, but comment, share this. If you text it to your friends, your family, whatever it would be. I know I sound like an influencer, and I will always say that because I feel stupid asking, but please like, subscribe, share, comment, whatever you need to do. It's going to help boost our algorithm. It's going to help boost our numbers. And again, thank you for watching the Droptine Studios podcast. Welcome back to the podcast. Today, we have a wonderful guest. It is Ken Yancey from the EWA Wildlife Association. If you've listened to any of our podcasts, you have heard people say the term conservation through commerce, and this is the organization who has coined that term, who has made it part of their history, and we're excited to have the Executive Director, Ken Yancey, today. So, Ken, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, Austin, what a pleasure. Always great to be with you, and appreciate all that you do for the industry, and it's a real pleasure to work with you. Thank you.
Yes, sir. So a lot of people have seen you come in. The first show that you were at, There wasn't a lot of time to get to know you. So hopefully this can be your time to kind of tell people about your history and your background. So Can you walk us through what you did before EWA?
Sure, happy to. So I grew up in Irving, Texas, a public school product, went to Texas A&M, finance degree in banking, 83 through 1990. Left banking and went to work for an association that was small business focused. Stayed with them for a few years, and then had the pleasure of going to the Washington, D.C. area as CEO of a volunteer organization called SCORE. We were about 310 offices, 10,500 volunteers, and our volunteers helped small business owners and people that wanted to start. So I stayed with them from 1993 to 2019 as their CEO. Yeah, enjoyed it. It was just an absolute gift to be able to spend time, and our volunteers made a huge difference in the lives of a lot of people, and that was really fulfilling. So moved back home to take care of elderly parents, as most of us do, and kind of tried the retirement thing, and I was really not good at it. And my wife agrees completely. She was ready for me to be out of the house. So, what a gift to be surfing on a couple of different employment sites. Saw an opportunity with EWA. Thought, I don't know much about the exotic wildlife business, but I've got some experience in the association world, and why not? So was very fortunate to be asked to come aboard in July of 2024. So been doing that ever since. It's been a wonderful drink from the fire hose. Yeah, learning a lot and having a great time. Really enjoying the people and the industry and everything that goes with it. Got a super team, good board. It's a great place to be right now.
Yeah, man. I am very thankful that you're now part of the EWA. I was even talking to someone yesterday, and they were just talking about what a blessing it's been for you to be in this role. And we think you've been a very, very good thing for the Exotic Wildlife Association.
You're kind. I think I'm the one that got blessed with this. So it's working, and we're having fun, and we've accomplished a lot, and we've got so much more to do. And so that makes it a really exciting opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. So coming into the EWA with no experience in the background of wildlife, what has been some of like the biggest surprises to you?
You know, what I knew about exotic animals were only things related to hunting, and I had never hunted them, but I knew that was available, and I knew the basic species, the common species, and I knew that I would like to do it at some point. I think I had no idea that there was such an industry beyond just the hunting aspect. Learning about those that are in it for the enjoyment, learning about those that are breeding, learning about those that are conservation focused and really focused on protecting species and improving species and genetics and all the science that goes with it. I was not aware of all of that, and I've enjoyed learning, and I've still got a lot more to learn. And then, certainly learning about how any livestock is impacted by disease, but particularly our exotic animals and those diseases that are impacting them right now, and the science that relates to all of that. It's a crash course, and I was never very good at science.
Right.
So I'm learning, and the great news is we've got really wonderful people in the organization that have incredible experience and knowledge. And when those types of issues come up, I've got lots of people that we can call on as an organization and that are willing to help and make sure that we don't slip or have any kind of lapse because the executive director is not an expert in the science. Right.
So you kind of alluded to it in your intro, but what would you say the overall health of the EWA is today?
We had the annual membership meeting, as you were aware, and you were there. And when we talked about the state of EWA, I used the word evolving. There's been a lot going on at EWA over the last 18 months, 2 years. We've had significant leadership change 2 years in a row.
Right.
That is normally very difficult for an association to adjust to. And in those periods, you often see lapses of different types of things related to the business, related to member engagement, and so on. And we've been really fortunate, despite those challenges, to experience some pretty good growth and some new opportunities and better engagement with our members. So I really do think we're evolving. We have a desire to be a world-class organization. That requires member engagement and really good communication and excellent leadership. And we have those things, and all of those things can be improved upon.
Right.
And so that's what we're focused on and what we're trying to do.
Yeah, because I've seen such a huge, just EWA in general over the past 3 to 4 or 5 years has been a huge leap, but really the past, like you said, 2 years, it's such a blessing to watch and kind of see more people be involved. Yeah. And even I don't want to misquote anything, but can you talk about the numbers from AMM last year to AMM this year?
Yeah, I like talking about that, Austin, as you probably know. So our annual membership meeting in 2025, we were 320 people registered and present. In 2026, we were 526 people.
Wow.
Registered and present. That was a surprise, a very pleasant surprise. We were counting on, mid 400s. Right. That was, we all thought was a really good goal. And, I think it shows the interest level, the level of engagement, the desire to network, the desire to learn, to be a part of some of these educational sessions. We had some really good ones that were highly rated. And it's, a successful organization, particularly an association, has to have quality engagement with their members and quality communication. And the fact that they're showing up and we're growing in that area, I think, is a good data point that tells us that maybe we're onto something.
Absolutely.
We still have a whole lot of things that we can do to make that better. But I'm personally really pleased with where we were, and the board was really pleased. They worked hard. We've got a great convention committee that's led by Chris Fritz. You're on it, in
yes,
fact.
Sir.
And Chris has done a really terrific job. Our auctions did well. Vic Jones is head of that auction committee, and he's got a good team there. So, it was a good effort and a team effort. And the board, like I said, the board's pleased, and they were involved in the strategy and direction of the event, and we're all benefiting as a result.
Yeah, so that's a huge growth in 1 year. And I mean, is that sustainable? Do you think you'll have another 200 people show up?
The conservation extravaganza that's coming up in August, it's 13, 14, 15, by the way, August. We had significant growth, 24 to 25. I am counting on growth. I don't know if it's going to be the kind of growth that we experienced, almost doubling in the AMM in February. I'm counting on, we were a little over 600 at dinner on Saturday night at the Conservation Extravaganza in 2025. If we could be in the low 700s, I think that would be an absolute home run.
Right.
And we're working hard to listen. We got great feedback on the AMM and great feedback on the Conservation Extravaganza last year. And we're trying to put those ideas and suggestions in place so that we're doing what associations are supposed to do. We're giving our members what they want and supporting them in a way that they want to be supported. So look for a few different things at the Conservation Extravaganza, and I think it's going to be really good.
For sure. So are people just emailing you, or how do they give you that feedback?
So we have begun capturing data. We're doing surveys on everything, and we're sending those out either through e-blast or email. We started last year using an organization called CVent to manage all the administration of registration process and so on. And they have a tool that allows us to go back to all of those that were there and get their feedback on specific things. And then, our members aren't shy, and thankfully, and they let us know how we can improve. And I must say that the lion's share of that is all constructive. I mean, it's not like they're sending us things and saying, golly, you idiot. They're saying, hey, this was great, and have you ever thought of this? And this didn't work as well as it should have. Is there some way you can improve that? And we're grateful for that feedback. I like data. I like hard numbers. I like to be able to make decisions and quote facts based on honest feedback and information that we're able to generate. And so we're doing that a great deal more now.
Yeah. So do you feel like enough people are doing it, or could they have more crowd participant of filling those forms out?
By a wide margin, we need more people to communicate with us. And, Austin, we need to also figure out how we better communicate with those that didn't come. We learn from those that were there and get to meet one. But what is it that we need to do to get those people that didn't participate to participate? Is it financial? Is it time? Is it lack of communication on our part? Are we not selling the value proposition well enough?
Right.
Those are all questions, and we haven't conquered that. Lots of organizations have, so there's a way to do it. We just haven't gotten that far, and we'll likely put that in place after the Conservation Extravaganza in August.
That's awesome. So we're filming this kind of the first part of March, so we're heading into the last part of the first quarter. looking back at 2025, what would you say was the greatest success for EWA?
I think you can put those successes in a couple of different buckets, right? So we talk about conservation, education, and advocacy. So on the advocacy front, obviously the big success was the tax bill. We estimate that making the change in the legislation that allows the sale of exotic animals to be non-taxable saved the industry well in excess of $100 million.
Right.
They meaning the state comptroller, they were going to claw back 7 years worth of taxes on sales that occurred. And, we know that even our small ranches would have a tax burden that would be in the many thousands of dollars as a result. And the larger ranches, theirs could have been in excess of millions of dollars.
Right.
So I think that was a huge, huge success. I'm really pleased with the development of some of our communication vehicles in 2025. We launched a new website. We doubled down on our social media, which you had been helping with, and actually not helping with, doing extremely well. We transitioned that part of our business in-house. We launched a newsletter. We're using our communication tools much better than we have in the past, and I think that was a real good thing. And then I think the conferences, and more specifically engagement at the conferences, is a really big thing and an important thing. And I think the success of that is one of the points of 2025 that the organization should be proud of. And I'm really proud of the team and the fact that they, with the board and our staff, were able to deliver all that good stuff. So
yeah, it's a
good year.
It's been a hell of a year for 2025.
It's been a good year.
So,
yeah.
So looking at that, one of the things we talked about right before we started hopping on the podcast was an email y'all sent out about the economic impact survey.
Yes, sir.
So I know we talked about it a little bit before off camera, but can you kind of talk about the last time that was taken and why it's important for members or anyone with wildlife to fill this form out?
Yeah, thank you for that question. This is really important. In 2007, an economic impact study was done with Texas A&M University, and it showed that the industry was a little less than $2 billion in total economic impact. We employed about 14,000 people total. As we talked, those jobs are in rural communities for the most part. So rural communities, I think any politician would tell you that effectively serving a rural community is one of their biggest challenges. So the fact that the industry is there and is supporting rural communities is a really good thing. That information was great for about 3 years. And here we are in 2026 staring at the 2027 legislative session for the Texas legislature. And when we go in to talk about issues and we need to tell the story of our industry, the only data we have is 2007.
Right.
And it's just almost irrelevant. As a matter of fact, it's almost hard to bring up. It's so old.
Right.
And so we really need to fill in the blanks on the story of our industry, what it is, how it impacts. And it's not the most important part of the story, but without it, there's a hole.
Right.
And I got to tell you, Austin, this survey is critically important. It's long. I mean, it's not one of these things that's going to take you 3 minutes to do. It's going to take you 30. And, I apologize for that in advance. And I desperately need all of our members and anybody else that's in the exotic wildlife industry complete this so that we can tell that story effectively when we're in Austin or when we're in Washington, D.C. Like me coming into this organization with no experience, I didn't even know what I didn't know.
Right.
When you think about going to these politicians and these other people, stakeholders and so on, they know nothing about our industry. And we only have a very short amount of time, minutes, to educate them on who and what we are, the value that we have, and what we need them to do on our behalf.
Right.
And that one part of the conversation is critical.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, I mean, you mentioned earlier, but being able to drive information off of facts and data, you could pitch that in 2 minutes rather than trying to explain, well, this was 20 years ago and this could have been here and there. But so just out of curiosity, because I don't know, is this anonymous when they submit it?
Absolutely. So when you look at that survey, Austin, you'll find that there's actually no place for you to put your name. It's all done electronically. You submit into a system that will do the analysis. We don't have the ability to follow up. Are we going to ask questions that could possibly identify the area that the ranch is located? Yes, but not the individual and not the ranch.
Right. Well, and it goes so much further because, I mean, you've got feed companies, you've got marketing companies. There's so much more that's impacted by this industry. So anyone listening, I would say, if you are somehow involved with wildlife, fill it out. This doesn't have to just be ranch owners filling out an economic impact survey.
It's totally true. And, we're really fortunate to have all of that support from supporting industry, whether it's marketing, public relations, or feed, or fence, or
veterinarians,
plumbing, veterinarians, techs, truck drivers that are hauling independently for hay or feed or whatever else it is.
Right.
Plus, all of those are critical to our industry, and we want them to be reflected in the overall economic impact of the industry as well.
Absolutely, because I think even the younger guys who might hear this and go, "Oh, well, I just do this on the side," or even the guys who are like anti-government, and they think if they put some information online, they're going to get shot down by China or something. It's idiotic to think that if the way the state of this industry is moving, you not providing your information is going to be more harmful, not only to you, but your kids, your legacy. So providing this data, it goes so much further than just how much money you make, how many animals you have.
It does. And, it matters regardless of your size. I was speaking to a member yesterday that has 30 acres and has a very successful operation on 30 acres, very effective. And his voice and his completion of the survey is every bit as valuable and important as the individual that has multiple ranches and thousands of acres. I had a member send me a note yesterday and said, well, I only have 3 red deer and, so maybe I shouldn't fill this out. And absolutely fill it out.
Right.
We have members of all shapes and sizes, and we're going to do our very best to meet every one of them where they are and provide value regardless of their size or whatever it is. So
right.
It's important that we get this information. It fills in a gaping hole in the story of our industry and the value that we provide. And it's going to be a key point when we start on these important conversations with politicians and agencies and rule makers and administrators, et cetera. It's going to be really important. So I hope everybody will take the time. And look, if you come across a question that you can't answer or that you feel is too invasive, don't answer it and complete the rest of the survey and send it in. We'll deal with that on the back end.
Right.
Give us all you can, and we'll be appreciative, and we'll have data that's going to be useful.
Yeah, because even the people who think they're quote unquote too small, like Droptine's not huge, but it affects a lot of our lives.
You bet.
And even the aspect of, say, someone's only bringing in $100,000, whether it's net or gross or whatever, but if we've got 400 members who are doing that, that's a significant impact. And so they have to, even if you're small, quote unquote, fill it out.
You may be small, but you are definitely important,
right? And
valued, and welcome as a part of EWA, regardless. And even if you don't have animals and you just love them, you're still welcome,
right?
Absolutely, to be part of EWA. It's not all ranchers and not all big ranchers and not all hunting ranches. It's everybody that has an interest in or a love for the industry and the animals.
For sure. Well, one of the things you sent me earlier said the organization reported total revenue of $3.1 million in 2025. And I don't know if I wrote it right, 2025/2026?
No, it's 2025.
Okay.
3.1 million. That was up. We've projected very conservatively this year, 2.6 million for 2026. I think that we're going to eclipse that. But, for reasons that made sense, we wrote a very austere budget. Just to make sure that we were taking care of everything that needed to be taken care of and we could continue to operate. And quite honestly, in 2025, we used a lot of that money that and a lot of the cash that we had on board, the rainy day fund for the rainy day, right, which was the tax bill. And so there was a pretty significant investment there. And so we're anxious to recoup that this year, and not that we still have a rainy day fund, and it's still not insignificant, but we spent a lot of money on lobbyists and lawyers and things like that last year. And while we're not aware of an issue right now that's going to require something like that, we need to be prepared.
Absolutely.
We weren't aware of the tax challenge until August of 2024. So we had always thought that, and leadership always thought that was not an issue, that it was already taken care of. And a meeting with the comptroller on a completely different issue, we found out that it wasn't taken care of. So it was all hands on deck and as fast as we could be. So we're optimistic about the financial success in 2026. Again, the conference was a big success. Margins on the conference are a little less than they used to be because we're at a different style of a hotel.
Right.
And quite frankly, I think being at that style of a hotel is one of the things driving participation.
Absolutely.
So that was a good decision, but one that had impacts, not negative, but impacts. So we're looking forward to the year and all the things that are going to come with it, challenges as well as opportunities.
Before we get started today, a quick thank you to our sponsors, Swing Free Alliance. They are a nonprofit working to educate the public about the primates trafficking crisis and the truth about those cute spider monkeys that you see on social media. They also support ethical primate rehoming and sanctuary development. Swing Free Alliance, because primates deserve to swing free. If you want to learn more, check out their link in our bio below. Did you know that Droptine Studios offers a plethora of different services that can benefit your business? Yes, we offer photos, videos, but did you know that we offer website design, graphic design, print materials, and social media management? Even if you're not a sponsor of this podcast, it would tremendously help us if you would hire us for our normal services that my company offers. So go to droptimestudios.com and let's talk about how our company can benefit yours. So with that, when an organization's bringing, $3 million in plus or $2 million plus, what are you guys allocating that money towards, and how is the organization divvying that up?
Sure. So, I think if you want to look at the major spending categories, of course, the conference, and we're doing 2 conferences a year, as you're well aware, and we're seeing 1,300 people total. It's 3 days, including golf. We're now doing 3 meals a day,
right?
And the food trucks have come in really handy. They've been delicious and really cost effective. So that's a big one. The other big one is advocacy. Last year we spent almost $270,000 on advocacy. That's a good bit. Our staff is bigger. Payroll is about $400,000 a year now. So we're right now at 6 full complement. We're 8. So we're in the process of bringing someone new in on the registry team. And everybody knows Neil Husky. Neil has started his own business, and we're immensely proud for him and excited for him. And we're going to be using him as an independent contractor to help us manage our events in 2026. So ultimately, we'll bring that back in-house. Timeline hasn't been quite decided yet, but it'll likely occur Q3, Q4, 2026.
Nice.
Yeah. So those are the bigger chunks.
Yeah, for sure. And so with one of the things I started with is everyone on the podcast loves conservation through commerce. They use it. They kind of, live by it, if you will. And so from the executive director standpoint, can you kind of define what conservation through commerce means?
Sure. So conservation through commerce simply is that we create or allow the animal to have an economic value. And that economic value generates revenue that supports the animals and other animals and can support people. You think about, we've talked about the economic impact survey, right? So the employment that you see, the spend that you see in these communities on feed, fence, whatever, all of that results from the dollar value of the animals being bought and sold. So revenue generated through that creates the others. So for the breeders, revenue generated by selling those animals supports other animals, supports genetic work, supports registry opportunities, supports conservation, et cetera, et cetera. And you see that in a lot of places. You see that with us. You see that in the hunting organizations. You're seeing it in Africa, where they've opened up hunting, and in some of these hunting areas, the communities have thrived because of the value that the hunters bring. And some of them, I was reading an article not long ago. In one particular instance, the village, a few of the villagers had become entrepreneurial, and they've started selling wares and clothing that was made and other things that were done. And so here's an opportunity where the hunting dollar comes in and creates a market and an opportunity for people to improve themselves.
Right.
So that's my my stance on that, and it does work.
Absolutely. Yeah, because we've seen it modeled, like you said, worldwide, independently with EWA, the members. And so, yeah, I think it's a huge testament to how many people have said it on the short amount of time we've had on this podcast. And I think that's how much it impacts this industry.
It really does. And then, on it has impact on the conservation side too. I was reading something recently. There's more bongo in Texas than there are in the wild.
Yep.
And one of these days, they're going to need to repopulate. And guess where they're going to come for the genetics and the animals and the embryos and all of that? They're going to come here. So that there's an example how that conservation through commerce is actually going to have an impact on the animal,
right?
And the area where the animal naturally exists.
Oh, for sure. So earlier, one of my questions I wrote down was the EWA's mission focuses on conservation, protection of the industry, and stewardship. Mm-hmm. So can you kind of go into that, what that means for you or the organization?
Sure. So we do that. So we're protecting the industry. We're conserving exotic wildlife, and we're helping our members to become better stewards of the animals that are in their care. And we're doing that in 3 different ways. We're doing that through actual conservation activities. We're doing it through advocacy, and we're doing it through education. So, on the conservation side, we've talked about some of that. I think that in previous years, we've helped repatriate several different species back to their native habitat. They were flown by the crown prince of somewhere, and they're there and they're thriving and it's working. And that was scimitar horned oryx, We did some of that with Dama Gazelle and with Addicts, what became known as the Three Amigos. So those types of things we're doing on the conservation end. On the advocacy end, we've talked about that. We're really focused right now on the prescription drug and control substance issue within the exotic wildlife industry. We're focused on some of the diseases right now, CWD, screwworm particularly. We're also focused on some property rights issues and some water rights issues. Water's already a big thing, and it's going to be a bigger thing as people continue to migrate to Texas. So that's something that we're going to have to spend time on. We're going to have to protect the industry from overzealous government, overreach, and just really regulation that makes no sense. That's going to be important on the advocacy side. On the education side, our opportunity to educate about disease and how to prepare, better ways to manage your animals, to manage your land, to rotate your pens, to feed, to talk about parasites and parasite loads and how you can manage that more effectively and efficiently. Talk about science of genetics and breeding and how that impacts conservation of a species. We're talking about beginning to look at some inbred coefficients, and the lab can advise a rancher if their animals are in the registry. Here are the two that are least alike. Breed them. These two are so much alike. It's not going to be a good thing to breed them. So conservation, advocacy, education are the ways that we're going to deliver on that mission. Now, there's a lot of other things in there, and part of the education too is the networking opportunity.
Right.
More learning probably occurs in between sessions at our conferences than occur in the intended learning sessions.
Right.
Because people are talking to each other and asking questions about, how do you do this, and what did you do this, and what did you learn about that? That opportunity is huge as well, and we'll continue to provide that.
Absolutely. So we've talked about something that I'm curious about as well, and I know y'all been doing other little. Well, let me twist back to this. Y'all also started the EWA Conservation Foundation.
Right.
Did I say that correctly?
You did.
And so what would be the separation between EWA as the association versus the nonprofit?
Versus the foundation, sure. So, and many of the listeners will know that the foundation was originally the Second Arc Foundation. And many, many years ago, when EWA also owned Trophy Game Records of the world and had the foundation, the nonprofit, there were concerns on the conservation nonprofit side that being affiliated with hunting was going to impact what the foundation could do. So they made the foundation, put a name on it that did not affiliate it directly with the association. Probably a really good decision at the time. Okay. As we began to think about it, we felt like that the brand EWA was valuable enough, and it didn't have that aggressive, all the time hunting connotation, and the fact that we no longer own Trophy Game Records, that it would be better for the foundation to benefit from all the branding that's been developed from EWA over the years and make sure people know that they're tied.
Right.
So we changed the name to the EWA Conservation Foundation. Very similar logo, so everybody knows that we're together. The mission of the foundation is to support the association and the conservation efforts of the association. So we're doing all of our conservation work. I say all. The lion's share of our conservation work is going through that. Our scholarships go through that. And it's, I think that it's working. We've only changed it a year ago. The jury, is still out, but right now I feel good about it. The board seems to feel good about it. And I think it's valuable for our members to know that this is, other people were saying, what in the world is this second ARC thing? And if you didn't know, you'd never put it together.
Right.
Now it instantly goes together and people know what we're doing.
Absolutely. So is there any other, like, I know the Three Amigos were kind of, the staple of what's happened. Are there other advocacy or, I guess, conservation issues with animals specific?
So we're working on what we've called the other amigos. The Three Amigos originally were about 9 or 11. And as things worked through and that legislation developed, they went down to the 3, which was the scimitar horned oryx, the addax, and the Dama gazelle. So there's still animals out there like the red lechwe and the Arabian oryx and the gar and the bentang and swamp deer, bersinga, that are still on the list that our members have numbers of and would like to get them off so that the conservation through commerce opportunity could be there again.
Right.
So we have worked with Representative Chip Roy and Representative Austin Pfluger. Austin's not the right name, but in any event, Representative Pfluger, and introduced House Bill 2608, which removes those animals from the endangered species list. We're working with Ted Cruz, Senator Cruz's office, and actually have another meeting with him tomorrow, or his team, in an effort to get that same legislation introduced in the Senate. There are not that many opportunities remaining in this fiscal year to get things done, and with the midterms coming up, this Congress is going to end. If we don't get something done by the September 30th, we're going to kind of have to start over in the new Congress in January. It's a difficult lift. It's a difficult lift on its own, but all the things that are going on in Washington right now, and all the rancor and disagreement, plus the issues that we now have with Iran and what we were seeing down in South America, et cetera. It's hard to keep your eye on this one. And so that makes the situation a great deal more complex.
Right. Yeah. So with that, I know earlier you said being able to have more member participation, members in general. So even if someone is or is not involved directly with wildlife, if they become a EWA member, what do they get?
Sure. So, Austin, we have 2 categories. We have an active member and an associate member. And the active member, that's a voting opportunity, and that's typically people that are in the industry. They either support the industry or own animals or have a ranch or something like that. The associate member are people that are interested and that enjoy it, but aren't really participating technically in the deal. And that would also people that are interested in conservation and things like that. What do you get? Well, you get access to the members of the association. You get access to the network, to the people, to the knowledge and information that can help you run your operation, whatever it is. You get access to an organization that's going to fight for you in the political arena from a legislative standpoint, an advocacy perspective. You get access to all of the educational materials that are there, a quality website with an education portal where all of those things appear. You get the opportunity to have up-to-date, almost up-to-the-minute communication on issues that relate to the industry, whether they're political issues or disease issues or government issues. We're going to keep everybody informed through the various communication mechanisms that we have. You get access to the registry. If you choose to register animals, you can do that. You can keep up with parentage. You can keep up with your genetics. You can track and manage and let other people see what you have, which influences often your ability to sell and price. So it's really a pretty good, and you get 2 lovely magazines a year.
Right.
So it's, I think it's a really good value. And I think, the key to it is when you join, you got to participate. If checkbook members in the association world are good. And a checkbook member is somebody that writes a check every year and never does anything. They don't partake. They don't participate. They, for whatever reason, they want to sign on the fence.
Right.
We love them. But if you're really going to get value, you need to participate. You need to read what comes out. You need to network. When you have a problem, you need to call the office. And while we're probably not going to have the answer, what we are going to have is access to someone that does.
Right.
So I think the value proposition is good. We're continuing to work on it and improve it. And I think for all those reasons, and certainly the conservation things that we do and the way that we promote the industry and protect the industry, also another good value. But I think it's a good deal.
Absolutely. And so is the EWA doing anything besides the shows to bring more membership in?
So we're really interested in doing that, and yes, we are. So we're going to be mounting a new social media campaign to talk more about member benefits and the value of membership. We're trying to work with organizations where our members already congregate. So what in the industry? Feed stores, fencing, agricultural equipment dealers, things like that. They're in and out of those kind of places all the time. Gate companies, control systems, et cetera, et cetera. Figure out ways that we can have a valuable partnership and have some of those partners promote the value of EWA. We need to look to more chapters in different states. We have opportunities in several states right now. We're considering those. There's a financial obligation to get those started, and so we're looking at them really carefully. We do have the Louisiana chapter, and I would think we would add at least one more towards the end of this fiscal year.
Wonderful.
So that's another opportunity. But we are interested in more members, and we need to think beyond just the rancher and the exotic wildlife person, and think about how we can add value to other industries and people and other interests. 5,000, 5,500 ranches in the state. We've got about 1,300 of them. That market's not huge, and I think there are things that we can do to attract people that are outside that market and add value.
Absolutely. So if someone's, considering being a member and they have no idea who EWA is, can you walk them through kind of how the board is set up so they can understand what their leadership looks like?
Sure. So we're really fortunate to have a great board, and like many associations, our board is popularly elected by the membership. In order to be a board candidate, you have to be in the industry, active in the industry. You have to have been a member for at least 3 consecutive years. You have to have spent at least 1 year on a board committee, and then you are eligible. Right now, there are not term limits, so you can be reelected as often as the membership will reelect you. Today, there are 19 members on the board, 5 officers, standard suite of officers, chairman, president, first and second vice president, secretary, treasurer, and they represent the membership, and they run the organization. I report to the president, and the president works with the board to set direction, policy, budget, et cetera, et cetera. So I serve at their pleasure, and that's the way it's run. We have 11 committees. Also, another opportunity for membership to be involved. Those committees include non-board members, and they're on specific issues for the organization. We have a finance committee, of course, which is required by law. We have a legal and ethics committee. We have an auction committee, a convention committee, conservation committee, an awards committee, a auction committee, et cetera, et cetera. Good, valuable leadership tools. Those committees advise and direct the board on what needs to be done. The board ultimately makes decisions, but the committees are really critical in doing the detail work on the issues that come within their purview.
Right. So how does someone become on a committee? Someone's listening to this and they said, I want to be,
Sure.
I want to help.
Call me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Talk to a board member. Send us an email. We're always, in the association world, volunteers are just your life's blood. We're always looking for good people that really want to be involved. And know that if you want to be involved, it means that you're going to be involved. You need to show up and you need to participate. And this isn't an opportunity for resume building. This is, as you know, you've been on committees before with us. These committees are active. That doesn't mean they meet every month. A couple of them do. But when their task is at hand, they're busy. They're on the phone. We do everything electronically through Zoom, so that we can take advantage, not infringe on anybody's time.
Right.
We try to set meetings a week in advance. We have agendas for every meeting, and we work diligently to make sure a meeting doesn't go over an hour.
Absolutely. No, and it's been great. I mean, even for me, I've even seen people in our committee on the road. They just take the call instead of being on Zoom. I've seen people on buggies. I've done it where we were in the middle of a lodge. So I would encourage anyone who's interested in helping to help, because it is a commitment, but so is anything you do in life. And so you're going to show up, show out, and your opinion and your voice is appreciated.
Absolutely. And we our volunteers are the best, and they do great work, and they're the ones that are guiding this organization.
Right.
And right now they should all feel proud, because things are moving in a good direction.
Yeah. And one thing you kind of mentioned, that right now there's no terms. Is that something that could be coming up in the future?
I don't know. That's a board issue. It gets brought up periodically. And I think if we get better at cultivating future board members, I think that's a possibility. They did it once, and the challenge was that they weren't finding people that wanted to run. And that's a communication issue. Right. And we're working hard to solve that.
Yeah.
And we're working hard to just engage more people. And you don't have to get on the reason to get on a committee is to contribute to the success of the organization.
Right.
You just happen to be eligible for the board after you've been on a committee for a year. But that's not the reason to get on. The reason to get on is that it's enjoyable and it's fun, and you get to meet a lot of people, and you actually participate in the success and growth of this organization. So all the cool kids are doing it. You should come and do it.
Well, I was going to make a comment right before you said the cool kids, because I was going to say I've done it. I guess this would be my third year. I wasn't going to say because I'm a cool kid, but I didn't ever really have the intention of running for the board. But after conversations with the board members and other members of the organization, it's even just piqued my interest. And I never started with the intent of being a board member. So, the more you get involved, it kind of gets addicting, and you want to see more success, and you want to help where you can.
Well, we're glad it works that way.
Absolutely.
We're increasing the size of the fold rather than running people off, and that's a good thing.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So with that, I mean, every organization's different. You've obviously been a tremendous background in helping other organizations. Do y'all have any self-assessments or not self-training, but training to help your board members with the issues besides just meeting? Oh, sorry. I know he was about to say something really important, but if you wanted to be a sponsor of this podcast, this could be your ad spot. We can interrupt someone right before, and they can listen to your message. So if you want to be a sponsor today, go to droptinestudios.com/podcast, and we'll talk to you soon. What's up, Droptine degenerates? Do you need a new website? Did this ad make you laugh? We're over here just trying to figure out what ads work and what's going to grab your attention. So if this made you laugh, comment below. And if you need a new website, head over to droptinestudios.com, and we would be honored to build you a new website that's going to represent your business.
That's a great question. In our operating plan this year, we have an objective to create a board development program. And so that will include a board assessment. And that assessment is not who we have necessarily, it's what we need in terms of experience. A board should have a variety of different capabilities. We could use another person that has good technology experience. And not that we need them to build technology or oversee projects, but we need their input from a strategic perspective on how we use technology as an organization to improve what we do and how we do it.
Right.
So we need that. You always need somebody that's got good financial background. It's always good to have somebody that has a legal background, a marketing, social media background. Clearly, we need people that are in our industry and have that background. It's great to have a veterinarian, which we're fortunate to have Dr. Pat O'Neill, that can comment on issues related to disease and anything else that we come up against.
Right.
It's good to have people that are familiar with Austin and the political process, Washington too. So that would be the assessment. Then we'll do an individual assessment, see what the skills match are, what the holes are, and we'll begin to try to recruit for that. We will do some board development training. It'll be basic to start with. What is the role of the board? What is the relationship between board and your chief staff executive? What is the relationship, or what should it be? What's the best practice? Same way with the rest of the staff. And then what should they be? What are the metrics that they should be monitoring? Some boards run the organization. Some boards are very hands off and only look at certain metrics and strategy. And either one of those can work. What we need to do is make sure that we've made a conscious decision about what it is we want to do and be.
Right.
And that's up to the board. So, and once we start doing that, then I think, a next step is we really need to get back. We do an annual plan every year. It's an operating plan, but we need to spend some time on a strategic plan. We need to think about, what we want to be in the next 3 years. And I think everybody has an idea about what that should look like, but I'm not sure they're all consistent.
Right.
And so the opportunity to have that conversation and come up with a consistent path forward will be a next step from a board development perspective.
Yeah, and I think that's great because from an outside, I don't know how many shows, I'm a part of however many organizations, but I've seen it on multiple standpoints from different boards. And so I think what you are doing is very wise, because there's some board members of other organizations that they're just like, man, I feel like I'm doing everything and no one's stepping up. And other guys are going, I just signed up to give my opinion. And so to make that conscious decision, I think is going to not only, which it just also gives validity to why you're in the position you're in, but being able to help the organization run further, because no one minds helping if they have a clear understanding of what they're doing. Right.
And, one of the things that we did early on was create a job description for a board member. Here's the expectation. And, if you're not getting what you want, most of the time it's because you never told anybody exactly what you want.
Right.
And so, we're fortunate that the board was up to it and willing and wanted to put that together. And then we're using that when we talk to people that might want to be on the board in the future. Yeah. So it's a good process. It's an important process. It's one of those things that's important but not urgent. And so we'll be working through that through this fiscal year.
So another thing we talked about earlier was the registry. So I guess just as a blanket statement to open up, can you explain to the people who may not know what the registry is?
Sure. So the registry, just like you register dogs through AKC, or you register horses, or you register cattle, and you keep up with the genetics and the parentage and so on, and that impacts value and et cetera, et cetera. EWA developed a exotic animal registry. Today there's 7 animals in that registry, and I'm gonna look at my cheat sheet here. Axis, blackbuck, fallow, kudu, red deer, sable, and sika. And there are 31,000 total animals in that, fallow being the largest percentage. And right now, in the neighborhood of 500 of our members participate in the registry. I think the registry's had a really good impact on the fallow market over the years since it was developed, and we're starting to see more in blackbuck and more in axis as well. A lot of people don't know the registry, what it does, how it does it, and the value.
Right.
And we need to spend more time this year, number one, talking about and communicating the value of the registry. And then number two, we're very anxious to improve it. And that includes getting information out that can give people more confidence in what's being done, how it's done, and the validity of the result, as well as adding more animals. We'll be adding bongo here in the relatively near future. We have the tissue samples in, and they're being analyzed right now. Got a call next week with the lab to discuss that, among other things. We have a number of people that have made suggestions about what can be included. We haven't made a decision yet, but we're talking about, impala and dama and nyala, and so we've had some people suggest giraffe, and we've had some people suggest Cape buffalo. I'm not prepared to say what the rankings are or the timing is, and I'm also not prepared to say that that's a complete list.
Right.
But we have a really robust registry committee, and along with the board, they're going to consider all the factors on those things and make decisions about what's next for the registry. But as the Exotic Wildlife Association, we should have the registry in North America and maybe worldwide.
Right.
So that's the big, hairy, audacious goal, and we'll work toward that beginning this year.
So how is it determined what species would be? Is it just recommendations?
So we get recommendations. We'll have our committee think through those, talk through those. We'll talk to the lab about challenges or issues or ease of addition. Some of them right now we've got several cervids in there. Adding another one wouldn't be hard. Adding some of those species will be difficult. Number one, just to get enough tissue samples, hair samples to do it. And after you have that, what's the real population out there? And is it really going to be valuable to the association when it's all said and done? And the board would ultimately make the decision, but there would be input from all of those places.
Yeah. Yeah, because even like what you said with the bongo being able to relate who's the most compatible, because if I remember right, there's only like 14 brought over, so they're all related. Now determining the least amount of being related would be the best.
Yes. And
because even with damas, that would be a huge impact, even though their numbers aren't as big as, axis or fallow.
Right.
More so of the conservation side going, hey, we can scientifically tell you which species, which member of this species is most and unmost related.
Yes. And, from a conservation perspective, that's really important to preserve the quality of the species and the health of the species. We need to focus there more than we have been. We've been doing parentage, and it all starts there, right? But you do parentage, and you look at what are the results in terms of horns or antlers or size or whatever the metric is that you're interested in, and what that morphs into is more focus on genetics. And as you focus more on genetics and start looking at those things, then it kind of becomes a conservation activity. because you're trying to preserve and improve the quality of the species. Right. And then you have things that you can, repatriate to their original habitat and so on. So
right.
It seems to me in a layman's perspective that's the path, those three things. And right now I would say that we're 90% parentage, 9% genetics, and 1% conservation. And we'll move like everybody else has to where it's more, a third, and a third.
Well, and I think the other side of it too is too bad there's not a slogan that kind of does that, conservation through commerce.
Wow.
Give them value, and then the conservation will come.
Wonder who came up with that.
Yeah, that'd be a great one to have.
It is a good one to have. It is.
And so when you have that, besides the number of animals, what's the biggest challenge with the registry? Is it the people?
I think the challenge with the registry right now is just creating better knowledge, education around it, and participation. We've got a lot of species. Some people use it, some people don't. Most of them, the ones that don't see the value.
Right.
And that's fine. And it's up to us to teach them and to show them the value and at least let them make an informed decision.
Right.
I think right now it's just, there's no value. And we haven't told you, we haven't spent any time trying to educate. After you're educated, if you still think there's no value, then there you go. But right. I think that we've got a good story. I think that we can easily show that this improves animals, it improves herds, it improves your market price. And, in the long run, you can be more successful.
Right. Yeah. Because we both know there's members in here that could care less about the profit. They could care less about anything besides the animal.
That's true.
Which, in my opinion, I may be a little biased, but you should put them in the registry. One, it would make your stamp, even though some people don't even want to be known, but it would put your stamp on what you've done in conservation as an EWA member, a board member, a committee member, whatever it would be, just a participant. That not only shows what you've done, but if you're trying to build a legacy, document it. Show how many you have in your herd. Show how many people that are trying to actively pursue this. If you make a couple extra bucks, you may or may not care. But overall, show your effort in conservation. Because again, we can go to Austin and go, we have members with X amount of animals. And it's not an assumption, it's a documentation.
Right. You're dead on. And for those that aren't in it for the money, you also, by putting your animals in and using that registry, you can find cows or bulls or whatever that are least like your animals from a genetic perspective, and maybe work with that individual, the individual owns that, to match up and cover these animals. So there's a conservation play that comes into focus, and I think again we've got a job to educate around the value of this, and the committee is committed to that, and Adrian Luff, who is the chair, is also committed to that. So we're excited about what's going to happen in the registry. Registry's been a little flat the last few years. It's grown, but we haven't really improved it, if that makes sense. And so I'm really excited about what the possibilities are for this year.
Well, Ken, one of the things that's pretty important in this industry, and especially with the EWA, is the PAC that y'all are working on. So as a blanket statement, if someone doesn't know, can you kind of explain what the PAC or the PAC fund is and what you're using that for?
Sure. So everybody knows that PAC stands for Political Action Committee, and it's an opportunity for people to support EWA by donating money to the PAC. It is not tax deductible. And the PAC, we are restricted as to how we use that, and we can use it for or to support statewide elections, individuals that are up for statewide election. We can use it to support individuals that are running for the legislature. We can use it in some instances for judgeships. and that's what we do. The PAC had not been used a whole lot in the past. At least that was my impression, and we began raising money to bring that in so that we can support in this current election cycle people that are going to support us, people that are really open to the wildlife industry, the exotic wildlife industry, people that are supportive of property rights, supportive of water rights, things of that nature. So we set a goal to raise or to increase the PAC to $150,000. We were very fortunate that we had a number of lots at the last auction donated to the PAC. We're within $30,000 of our goal. We will be making some phone calls and talking a little bit more about the PAC as we move along. And likely in August, we'll have some sort of an event or activity at the Conservation Extravaganza that's going to support that PAC. In terms of people that we're looking at supporting, there is a list. So far, the only one that we supported in a primary was Angie Chin Button, and the reason that she's out of Richardson, Texas, and the reason we supported her, she's the one that introduced the tax bill and moved it through the House along with Speaker Burrows, moved it through the House and got it into the Senate. And in the Senate, Senator Campbell is the one that shepherded it through there. And then, of course, it was one of the very early pieces of legislation that the governor signed off on in the 2025 legislative session. So we're going to support some of those people that have supported us. We're likely going to support Representative Brad Buckley. He's the only veterinarian presently in the legislature, and someone that's really important to us, particularly as we talk about the prescription drug controlled substance issues and their use, and some of the rules for the Texas Board of Veterinary Medical Examiners. He's important in those conversations. So there will be others, but that's where we are right now. Our legislative committee, very strong, led by Marita Borromeo, who you know. Marita had been on the board in the past and was chair of this committee, and she's come back to us, thankfully, and is helping once again. And we have a paid lobbyist that is helping us with strategy and direction, and helping us evaluate who we should be supporting as we move through. We traditionally don't support anybody in a primary, only in the generals, and so obviously primaries are almost over. There's a few that are going to have runoffs, but that conversation will begin in earnest in just a few weeks.
Yeah.
So it's really important to us to have people that understand the industry and support the industry, making decisions and carrying the water for us in the legislature. And that's what the PAC allows us to do. It allows us to not just, we find those people and then we support them and try to get them in there for our future needs.
Right. So for someone like, whether they're, let's just say, EWA members that has never been involved in advocacy or legislation or anything like that, how can they get involved?
Sure. So, the PAC is pretty simple. In order to donate to the PAC, you have to be an EWA member and you have to be a Texas resident. We can't use those funds outside of the state of Texas. So, if you're interested in doing that, that would be wonderful. We've got some people that make a small contribution every month. It's just drafted out of their bank account. We have people that, write small checks, and we have people that write large checks, and we're thankful for every single one of them. In terms of the advocacy process, when it's time for us to engage membership, we're going to reach out and we're going to provide you with, here's what you need to know. Here's the issue. Here's our stance. Here's why we're in the position that we're in. And would you please take that to your senator or your representative? We've done that. We did it on the tax bill, and we were very specific to do it within certain districts because those were the individuals, the people that represented those districts were the ones that were going to be making decisions or chairing committees or whatever. And so it wasn't a statewide or nationwide call to all EWA members. It was very specific. There could be times when we do have a nationwide call. I think that, if you happen to be in a conversation with your senator, your representative, whether it's state or federal, don't hesitate to tell them about your operation and your industry, and that you hope that they support, the agricultural community, those that are interested in property rights and in water issues. And if they have questions or need help, they can call on you.
Yeah,
that's very helpful.
So how does EWA decide what legislation to support and oppose?
Yeah, very good question. So we start with the legislative committee, and we'll go through and review legislation and determine whether or not it's innocuous or we need to do something either in support of or against that piece. And once we've done that, depending on what it is, most likely 9 out of 10 times we're going to take it directly to the board. And what we'll do is exactly what I just described. Here's the issue. Here's how it impacts us. Here's, what we want to say. Is EWA, do you agree, board, that EWA should take this stand? And we let them, they represent the membership. That's the way an association should work. We'll make a recommendation. I say we, the committee, will make a recommendation. Our lobbyist will likely make a recommendation, and then we would move forward. But this isn't an individual sport.
Right.
This is a committee sport and a board sport.
Absolutely.
Since we're taking a stance on behalf of the entire association, not willing to do that without the board.
Yeah. And what's y'all's number one issue that y'all are facing with legislation right now?
So right now, we're very interested in making some changes as it relates to the prescription drug controlled substance issue.
Right.
There are some things that in the regulations or the rules from the Texas Board of Veterinary Medical Examiners that a change would be valuable to our members, to those that use the drugs, and to our veterinarian friends, and they would not create any additional risk to the public. We never can forget that these controlled substances, there's a dark side to all of that, and there are. I'm getting tired of hearing the term bad actors, but there are people with less than kind intent that'll take those things and do things with them that we don't want. And particularly given that so much of that happens with children, I know for a fact that there isn't an EWA member anywhere that wants to take a chance on being anywhere close to harming a child.
Right.
So these changes that we're talking about, again, do not increase the risk to the public. In fact, I think we can make a reasonable case that it lessens the risk to the public. It's still going to be very, very hard to change. There's very few, veterinarians that specialize in exotic wildlife anymore, probably, a handful, not even a dozen. And so when you look at the overall veterinary industry, it's just a very, very small fraction. So even to get them to consider some of these changes is going to be difficult.
Right.
Yeah. So that's the top one.
And I've talked to, I think it was with Sam Wilkinson about it a little bit, but even just coming up with some type of educational course, I just think that would be like if you could be certified or, and I'm not putting this on y'all, but it was my thought before, even when you're not in the room, having like the EWA stamp of approval that this individual handling these drugs has gone through this course. I just think that would be tremendous. Now, again, I just have very good ideas, terrible at execution, but I think it would have some validity, especially if you're going to go before the state or anything to go, hey, we at least have this.
I think there's something. I think there's something there, and that's been suggested. And and it's under consideration.
Right.
You think about certification. So who's going to stand up and recognize it? What liability does it create for those if those people stray too far from what they agreed to do, and other questions. But I think that there's something in there that we need to ferret out and figure out. I mean, this has been done on a lot of occasions. You think about getting certified to use certain pesticides. It's not terribly different. And those are dangerous too.
Right.
So I think you're onto something. And right now, all we've done is educate. We rolled out at the AMM a best practices guide that addresses compounding pharmacies, veterinarians, and end users, the industry of these drugs. And we got really good feedback on that. We're looking at a couple of changes to it right now and waiting to hear back from the Texas Board of Veterinary Medical Examiners on interpretation issues. So that will be being updated hopefully within the next 2 weeks, and we'll put another issue out. And until we get some sort of certification that works, I think Dr. Pat O'Neill made a comment one time: don't do anything stupid,
right,
with regard to these things. And if you're not sure, call us.
Right.
And we may not have the answer, but we know where to go to get it.
Right.
So that's an important one from an advocacy perspective. We're always, Austin, and you know better than I, we're always watchful of overreach and issues that might come from Texas Parks and Wildlife or even Texas Animal Health. Those are, we'll monitor that carefully. There were 7 bills last year that we opposed, all through Texas Parks and Wildlife. Of those, 6 of them died. 1 of them passed, which was the helicopter audad bill.
Right.
And I think you talked to Callan about that another time. So we'll be monitoring very carefully what's coming out on the deer side. And because so many of our members did or do raise whitetail, we're going to weigh in on anything that has to do with those industries and anything that might, in the whitetail world, that might set precedent that would impact the exotic world.
Right.
And so that will be another area that we'll be spending a lot of time on. And then we talked about disease, making sure there's adequate funding for screwworm and that they're doing good things there. And on CWD, hopefully we can figure out how to inject some common sense into the whole thing. So
mentioning the screwworm, like we just had Macy Ledbetter on, and he is I think we went over like 9 questions and went for like 5 hours. Yeah. So like it was a whole day, but, and screwworm was one of them. So I think that's going to be, hopefully for our listeners or EWA members, a very good tool for a professional like him and someone who's seen and gone through this in the past.
Right.
But what is the current, just from the EWA perspective, what's the biggest concern surrounding New World screwworm?
Yeah, so everybody knows what it is and where it is. We had an update. EWA is on the Texas Screwworm Coalition, and we're on the Governor's Screwworm Task Force. So we do 1 to 2 conference calls a week. With yesterday was coalition. We had undersecretary from USDA. They have a screwworm czar, quote unquote, Admiral Smoyer, who's really added some structure and focus into that. I think they're doing a good job and working hard. We all would like it to be faster. I think the thing that we're most concerned about right this second is the fact that there's not a feed-through treatment for screwworm.
Right.
There's nothing that's preventative. They can get it, and it doesn't spread from animal to animal. The animal has to be found by the screwworm fly. Eggs have to be laid into a wound, and that's how you get it.
Right.
So for wildlife and for exotics that are free range, there's nothing other than an injectable ivermectin that will deal with the worms once an animal has them.
Right.
And so the idea of being able to treat corn or protein pellets or whatever and do a feed-through medication for animals that have it, that doesn't exist. Now,
right.
According to USDA, FDA is working on that. They've got emergency authority to do things, and what we're being told is once the screwworm is detected in Texas, then that will happen quickly. You know, why wait?
Why wait? Yeah.
Yeah. Why wait? We would like to see it happen more quickly.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's a hard thing. You're going to have animals and other things that don't have screwworm that are going to ingest this stuff. And there are issues with it, resistance over time and how it impacts downstream, if you will, other animals and bugs and so on that consume feces or whatever else it happens to be.
Right.
So that's the issue. And then, you know, the thing that's going to fix this is the release of sterile male flies. Last time in the 60s, we were releasing 300 million flies a week to beat that back to Panama. Right now, total world production is 100 million sterile flies a week. They're converting a plant in Mexico from fruit flies to sterile male screwworm flies. That is supposed to come online sometime this year. They're building a plant in South Texas that is supposed to be able to produce, when it's fully capable, 300 million flies a week. They have a dispersal facility at that same location in South Texas. So all of that's good, but none of it's going to be ready for 1 to 2 years.
Right.
So, you know, until then, we've got to figure out how to beat it back. And I think, you know, they're releasing flies from the ground. They're releasing flies from the air in certain places. They're releasing flies into Texas up to 50 miles from the border as a preventative. All of that's good, but it's just not enough yet. And I think that the Secretary of Agriculture, Department of Agriculture, USDA, is really focused on this. You know, she's a Texan and she gets it. And it started out slow, but they're moving now.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Yeah. So it's an issue for us. And you go on the Texas A&M AgriLife Extension website, and they have pamphlets that they have published by species. So they have a wildlife pamphlet, and they have a cattle pamphlet, and a swine, and, you know, on and on. And it gives you information about what to look for, about how to look for it, about what to do if you suspect that you found it, and how some level of treatment on these things.
Right.
So it's all there. We just did a article in our newsletter about it with the links to all of those things. So if you can't find it, you can find it there. And if you still can't find it and need it, you can call us, and we'll make sure you get it.
Before we wrap up today's podcast, a quick message from Swing Free Alliance. Those baby spider monkeys that you see on social media might look cute, but the truth is often tragic. Poachers frequently kill the mothers just to capture the babies. Swing Free Alliance is exposing the reality of the exotic pet trade and fighting for a better future for these animals. They're born to swing free, not to be smuggled. If you'd like to learn more information, visit swingfreealliance.com, or you can check out the link in the bio below. We are really good at our job. We just happen to sell convenience. If you're looking for someone to help run your business, whether it's social media, rebuild your website, whatever it may be, contact us today at droptinestudios.com. Absolutely. And one of the other things, since we've talked about screwworm now, is there was a suspected CWD case in Kansas of an axis buck. Or axis
It's a
herd.
buck. It's a buck.
What do we know about that right now?
Sure. So USDA, the owner of the animal, the state of Kansas was monitoring his herd, which allowed him to have a certificate so he could ship animals into Missouri, sell animals in Missouri. And he found this animal outside his pen, dead, sent it to the Kansas state. It tested suspected positive. They sent it to Ames, Iowa, the USDA, and it tested positive. USDA has certified it positive, but they don't have any other tissue. They don't have any other animals. It's just a single test. There are a variety of concerns about chain of custody, about the viability of the sample, degradation of the sample, questions about the pen where the animal was raised. That pen had elk in it, and they had a 3-year-old elk that had popped positive for CWD. They killed all 20 in there and had no other instances of positive CWD. So right now, we had a call Monday with USDA APHIS. USDA does not have jurisdiction here. So what's going to happen ultimately is that it's going to be punted to the states. So Texas Animal Health will be dealing with it. We're very fortunate. Tommy Oates, our former president, is a commissioner. We have what I believe to be a positive and good relationship with Dr. Dinges, the executive director, and with Dr. Lansford, the deputy executive director. That doesn't mean he's going to do anything wrong or do what we ask him to necessarily. He's going to follow the science.
Do what he needs to do.
Yes, but he's also, he knows the industry, he knows what's at stake, and I think what that's going to do is increase the rigor that he uses to do what he needs to do. So we are going to continue to call it suspected positive.
Right.
We think that there are issues. We're trying to work with, to the degree that you can, USDA on this particular issue. I would tell our owners of Axis not to get wound up at this particular point in time. Let's see when and how. USDA does not seem to be in any hurry to push this through. And again, since they don't have standing, it's all going to go to the states. Right. So that's where we are right now. There's many unanswered questions. The animal health has got their hands full with screwworm now too, and now this. And so, Dr. Dinges will do the right thing in the right timeline, and we'll be there and a part of the conversation and help as best we can.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a conspiracy theorist through and through anyway, but my overall thought just in this particular one is if it was a negative with all the other given circumstances, they still would be like, well, we don't know. We need to, but since it's positive, they want to hold it as gospel truth. But that's my opinion. Yep. That's just an uneducated assumption on my end.
I got to tell you, I think while you think it's uneducated, I think it's right.
So, yeah, I think just since it would be the technical first access CWD positive, that's what they're holding on to. And I would say the same thing, not that these access breeders care what I think, but I think they're grasping at straws. But just be a member of EWA and they'll go fight for you.
Well, you know what? We're spending time on it, and it's time well invested. It's an issue that we need to spend time on, and we'll do all we can to keep our folks informed so that they can make the business decisions they need to make as it moves forward.
Absolutely. Well, Ken, as we kind of come to a close of this thing, is there anything we missed that you want to address?
I think that we've talked about it all, and you had asked a question about what it might look like 3 years from now, which I think is a really good question, and I've thought a lot about it, and in a nutshell, in 3 years, I hope that our membership would say that EWA understands my business and my needs, and they're reacting to it appropriately.
Right.
That we're doing what we need to do to fulfill our mission, protect the industry, and serve the wildlife create education, that we're living up to the promise that we made. And we know, I mean, the one thing we know is things are going to change, and all of these plans and goals and ideas are going to change. And as an organization, it's up to us to become change proficient.
Right.
And we're working hard to do that. And I hope that that's reflected, and that the membership sees it, and that they stay, and actually not just stay, but continue to get more engaged,
right,
with the association.
And so one of the things that I like to ask anything, but what do you think one of the biggest misconceptions is from the outside perspective of the EWA? Yeah,
I still wonder if a lot of people, particularly people that aren't around the industry, think that we're all about hunting ranches.
Right.
And while we do have hunting ranches that are members, and we love them, and they're great, and they're part of the conservation through commerce, we couldn't do without them. We're much more than that. And I think that, that's education that we have to provide, the education that we have to do, and markets and communication venues that we've got to reach out to and get the message out. Right. So I think that's probably the one, as a 18 months in the industry layperson. I think that's probably the one.
Absolutely. Yeah, because I'm fully a believer that conservation touches all points of it, or the stool that conservation sits on has a hunting leg, has a breeding leg, has the genetics leg. I think all of those tie together, and people just are going to have to get over it, because I've told many people that disagree with my opinions, conservation is to the pretty little rhinos, giraffes, but it's also to the jackals. It's also to the ugly animals. Mm-hmm. And the profit margins also help all of those come back to it. And so you can't cut your nose off to spite your face just because you want to call yourself a conservationist and not like hunting.
I think you're absolutely right. And, not everybody doesn't have to agree with us. It's okay. If you don't agree, good.
Yep.
Best wishes.
This is America.
Hope things continue to go well for you. When we need to fight, count on it. We will. And, other than that, have a good life.
Absolutely. Well, I don't think there's any better way to end the podcast. So, Ken, thank you so much for coming on. I, on behalf of all EWA members, will say thank you for the work that you're doing in this industry, the role that you're taking, and we look forward to seeing what we can do in the future.
Great. Austin, thanks for everything. Appreciate all you do for the industry, and I'll come back anytime you would like.
Man, I have a feeling this was just going to be an overarching one today, but I have a feeling we'll have more podcasts, more in depth about specific subjects here soon.
It would be an honor. Thank you, sir.
Sir, thank you, Ken.